Thank you for joining us here this evening for the 2025 Provincial Candidates Debate, hosted by the Belleville Chamber of Commerce and sponsored by the Central Lakes Association of Realtors. I do want to take one quick moment and acknowledge that the Belleville Chamber of Commerce operates on the unceded territory of the Haudenosaunee, Wendat, and Anishinaabeg. And I also want to acknowledge that many times this begins as a blessing, and it's meant to be the words before all else. So thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. Thank you for participating in the democratic process that we call an election. My name is Jill Raycroft, CEO for the Belleville Chamber of Commerce, and I've lost count of how many candidates debates we've done in the last 8 years. I want to thank the Empire Theatre for their support and this incredible venue, and yourTV Quinte for filming and broadcasting this evening's event. For those who will watch on yourTV, thank you for joining us in spirit. I also want to thank the candidates who have joined us this evening. It takes a lot of courage to put your name forward and stand on this stage. At its core, the Chamber was created as an organization to be an advocate for business. In the past 160 years, I don't know if it has ever been more evident that nothing is untouched when business struggles, as we've seen through the past few years. And while business has always been affected by red tape, legislation, taxes, business is also affected by healthcare, by education, by mandates, by housing, by immigration, and how we are all in this together. Of all the years we've hosted the candidates for this community event, our questions this evening are likely to touch on all of our region's issues, because issues for business are also issues for everyone who lives here. Thank you again for joining us, and I would now like to invite Lisa Comerford, Director of Public Affairs with our sponsor, the Central Lakes Association of Realtors, and she also happens to be the chair of the Belleville Chamber of Commerce's Government Affairs Committee.
Thank you, Jill. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Provincial Candidates Debate. We are thrilled to have you join us as we engage in an important discussion about the future of our province. This evening is an opportunity to hear from the candidates on the issues that matter most to you, and to gain a deeper understanding of the candidates' visions for our community. Thank you for being here, and we look forward to a lively, respectful, and informative discussion.
And now I'll introduce you to the moderator for this evening. This is our president, Chris Auger, and it is the honor of our chamber to bring our president on board for these election debates. And depending on the cycle, some people get to do 1 or 2, or Chris is probably going to do 3. So he's getting good at this.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. As we get started, I want to go over a few housekeeping. Tonight, we have received questions online from the public and sourced questions from the issue raised by the Ontario Chamber of Commerce and the Ontario Competes 4-point plan. We have also revised questions from the public at the door. Our Government Affairs Committee has selected a total of 12 questions that will be addressed to our candidates this evening. And they are in the back room right now reviewing the questions that came in tonight. We do review questions for duplication and relevance. So if you've submitted a question, please listen carefully to the topics we cover. Your question may not be asked as you wrote, but if you wrote it and it's a provincial issue, we're confident we'll be asking our guests this evening to tell us how their party is planning on dealing with it. The seating order was drawn at random tonight, and the candidates for this evening. None of the candidates have seen the questions in advance, and each question will be drawn as we go. None of the questions have been directly assigned to any candidate, and each candidate will have the opportunity to answer every question with specific time limits. As an audience, please refrain from offering any comment from the floor. If you do see the red signal raised by our timer, you are welcome to applaud, as a candidate has no more time to speak. At this time, I'd like to introduce our candidates for this evening. First, from the PC Party of Ontario, Tyler Alsop. From the Green Party, Lori Borthwick. From the Liberal Party, Dave O'Neill. And from the NDP Party, Amanda Robertson. Thank you to all the candidates for being here tonight. We'll begin this evening's event with an opening statement from each candidate. Candidates drew a number for their state's position, and we've used this to create a presentation order. This order is mixed for each section in an effort to distribute questions fairly and without bias. Each has 3 minutes for their opening statement. Timing is monitored by Lisa Grills. Please watch for her yellow and red placards. Yellow is 15 seconds, red is stop. Candidates will be muted on my signal once the red paddle is raised. I would now like to invite Lori Borthwick for her opening statement.
Thank you. Well, good evening, everyone. I am your Green candidate, Lori Borthwick, and I want to take a moment to acknowledge that I reside upon the lands that have been inhabited and protected since time immemorial by the Haudenosaunee, the Huron-Wendat, and the Anishinaabe. I acknowledge my responsibility to work to protect these lands, from the incredibly diverse Bell Creek watershed to the gorgeous south shore of Prince Edward County, from the towering limestone cliffs of the Picton Harbor to the only cold creek in the county, the Warings Creek. These areas sustain the life that sustains us all, and we destroy them at our peril. I've spent much of this past decade working to protect our natural heritage with inspiring people from the Prince Edward County and Quinte Field Naturalists, the South Shore Joint Initiative, and the local Conservation Authority staff. In 1989, I began serving my community here in the Bay of Quinte. As a frontline healthcare worker, a respiratory therapist, I have been there when your family members were at their most vulnerable. I wept with you when we lost a loved one, and I rejoiced with you as their health improved and they were able to get back home. I have seen this healthcare system from the inside. When I began, the Belleville General Hospital had almost 500 beds, but successive governments have hacked away at the system we all depend on. Despite our burgeoning population, Belleville General Hospital has less than 200 beds. Patients are being treated in hallways and waiting rooms when they're treated at all. I will be your champion at Queen's Park. I will not be spouting party talking points instead of advocating for my community's needs. Over the last 7 years, Doug Ford has not only failed to deliver on his buck a beer promise, but he's also failed to get her done. As housing starts are stalled in Ontario, our healthcare is in shambles and our education system is overcrowded. Ontarians are finding life more unaffordable than ever, while our premier wastes money pulling out bike lanes in Toronto. Over my time in this community, I have seen blue, red, and even orange governments, and I watched as the good people we elected as our MPPs were silenced by party politics. Greens expect their MPPs to be community champions and to represent their constituents' needs over party politics. For over 30 years, I have served this community, and I will be your voice at Queen's Park. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. I'd now like to invite Amanda Robertson for her opening statement.
Thank you. And thank you all for being here tonight. It's really great to see this many people out and engaged in democracy and really battling back against some of that voter apathy. So again, thank you for being here. So my name is Amanda Robertson. I'm running for the Ontario NDP. I have a background in occupational therapy, and I always like to bring this up because for those of you who aren't aware, OT is really about enabling people to participate in meaningful life and living. And that really informs everything that I do and all of my community involvement. So I'm currently a school board trustee with Hastings and Prince Edward. I'm a community volunteer with the John Howard Society on their board of directors. And I coach youth basketball, boys basketball in the Belleville Spirits organization. I was raised on a dairy farm with 3 sisters and no brothers, so I am no stranger to hard work, but also being underestimated. And I think that's really important, especially in this day and age where we don't have a lot of women in politics that have a big voice, and it's something that is of importance to me and something I hope to be able to inspire others to get involved and to really use their voices. So while I was raised on a dairy farm, I've made Belleville my home to raise my 3 children with my husband Drew, who is a local family doctor. And I'm running because I really believe that everybody deserves a chance to get ahead. Life has become really hard for us here in the Bay of Quinte and across the province, and we deserve better. We deserve homes that we can afford. We deserve healthcare that we can rely on. We deserve help with the cost of living and schools that can set our kids up for success. I want to represent you because for too long, we have not seen our reality reflected in decision-making that's happening at Queen's Park. Our issues and our challenges are making it there, but our solutions are not. I know what we need, you know what we need, and we need to make sure that some of our homegrown solutions are making it there to be able to be acted on so that we are refocusing government priorities on everyday people, creative solutions from frontline workers and everyday people. With Doug Ford and his Conservatives, we've not had that. We've had representatives who failed to deliver on housing, healthcare, and infrastructure, and it really only seems to come through with fractions of what we need around election time. So nobody wanted this cold, wintry, freezing election, but what it has offered us is an opportunity to change course for better and to have better sooner. So this election, we can make a different choice, one that brings fresh leadership and a new vision to Ontario, and a representative who will fight to restore the promise of a good life for the people here in the Bay of Quinte. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. I'd now like to invite Dave O'Neill for his opening statement.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm David O'Neill, your Liberal MPP candidate. I am pleased to be with all of you tonight and would like to thank the Chamber for hosting this event and everyone for coming. I'm here because Ford and the Conservative government have shown a clear inability to effectively manage our taxpayer dollars. Our community deserves much better. I know I'm not the best public speaker, but the best public speech in the world won't get you a doctor, healthcare worker, or affordable housing, which are some of my priorities for our area. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm surrounded by 5 strong women. I'm married to Teresa, have 3 beautiful daughters, and my mom, Donna. I also have 4-year-old twin grandsons who already skate circles around me and give me multiple reasons to build a stronger future for everyone. My municipal background includes 6 years in Quinte West Council and has given me insight into local and provincial concerns and the opportunity to serve on over 12 committees, reflecting on healthcare, economic development, and quality of life programs. I have a grassroots understanding of what needs to be done and will work for everyone. Regardless of their political partisanship, I have proven I can get things done. Currently, I own and operate O'Neill Developments, a company involved in the leasing of various commercial properties. I am a chartered professional accountant and for over 20 years owned and operated an accounting business in Quinte. My experience has given me an appreciation of the financial challenges small business and families face. My parents taught me about the importance of integrity, dedication, and compassion. These same characteristics will guide my campaign and potential time in office. Many seniors are now having to work to make ends meet. This should be the time of their life to enjoy and not to worry about finances. As a member of the Hastings County Community and Human Services Committee and Long-Term Care Committee, I know what we need to do together to help our seniors and families. I will advocate for expanding in-home care services and more financial supports. Over $3 billion in cuts have resulted in fewer teachers, under-resourced schools, and inadequate supports for students with special needs. If the $3 billion number sounds familiar, this is the amount the Ford government gave away with their $200 elections gimmick. This money would have been much better used to fund the education or healthcare systems. Ontario Liberals will get the basics right. We'll get you a family doctor, cut your taxes and home heating bills, and help build homes you can afford.
Thank you, David. I'd now like to invite Tyler Alsop for his opening statement.
Thank you, Chris. Good evening, everybody, and thank you all for coming out tonight. For those that don't know me, my name is Tyler Alsop. I'm a proud father, husband, former business owner and city councillor, as well as the former chair of the Belleville Police Services Board and the treasurer for the Enrichment Center for Mental Health. And over these last 4 months, it has been the honor of my life to serve as your MPP in Queen's Park. Now, when I stood before all of you in the by-election, I told you that I would do 3 things. That I would hit the ground running, that I would make sure that there was no gap in leadership at Queen's Park, and that we would continue to get it done for the Bay of Quinte. And as I stand before you now, 4 months later, I can confidently say that we have done all of those things. In fact, as we were pulling the signs out of the ground after that election, we started calling stakeholders and constituents and set up meetings for that following week. Sorry, there's no worries. All good. So we started scheduling meetings for the following week. We've since had over 300 of them because we know everyone in this community deserves to have their voice heard and deserves to be represented. And once I got to Queen's Park as a brand new MPP, which is daunting enough, I also came as the parliamentary assistant to the Minister of Long-Term Care, a minister that was about to go on mat leave. So very quickly, I found myself thrust into leadership roles, traveling all over the province to facilitate groundbreakings as well as grand openings for all of the new beds that we're building in long-term care across the province. I also attended the Rural Ontario Municipalities Association and handled 15 delegations in the place of the minister, speaking to municipalities about the needs that they have as it relates to long-term care. And finally, when it comes to getting it done for the Bay of Quinte, even though I've been in office only about 100 days, I've worked with Premier Ford and this PC government to deliver real results for you on the files that matter most. When I was out door knocking in Quinte West, they talked about the need to build more homes and how they had to have the infrastructure available to do it. Well, we responded to that need with the largest infrastructure investment in the history of Quinte West, over $11 million to urbanize Highway 2 and 2nd Doug Hill Road. In Prince Edward County, we heard about the crumbling infrastructure along Highway 49, County Road 49 being one of the worst roads in all of Canada for multiple years. Well, we stepped up and fully funded our portion, $19.93 million, to make sure that that road could get done and they could leverage the rest of the money from the federal government. And right here in Belleville, as I was knocking doors, the need for homelessness, mental health, and addiction support could not have been clearer. And we answered the call once again, locating a heart hub here in Belleville, which is a $19 million 3-year commitment that comes with 21 supportive housing beds and the resources that our community needs to help people get back on their feet. I'm running for re-election to continue to get it done for you, to deliver the investments and resources that our community needs to continue to thrive and grow. So on February 27th, I'm asking for your vote to send me back to Queen's Park to be your strong voice in government.
Thank you to all the candidates for your opening remarks. We will now move into the second part of the evening where candidates will be asked a series of questions. The Chamber has developed these questions from community input, shared conversations through their Government Affairs Committee. Please note that submitted questions may not be quoted and/or have been combined into general themes of concern and interest as it relates to the provincial government and their policies and decisions. There will be 2 parts to this Q&A portion. In part 1, each candidate will have a chance to be first to answer a question, and all candidates will have the opportunity to respond as well, with the final rebuttal going to the initial responder. Responses will be timed, and the speaker will be warned when they are reaching their time limit. For this round, the first person answering the question will have 2 minutes to respond, with each following candidate having 1 minute to respond, as well as the initial candidate 1 minute rebuttal. Lori Borthwick will be the first to respond to question 1. Lori will have 2 minutes. The remaining candidates each have 1 minute. I will draw from the bucket. Lori, this question is for you. The healthcare system is not supporting the needs of our community or the province, and it starts with access to primary healthcare providers. How will your party ensure everyone has access to this critical service? You have 3 minutes or 2 minutes. Sorry.
Well, I wish in 2 minutes I could create all the doctors needed. I will say that I see every day the issues that have occurred with people not having access to a primary care practitioner, be it a family doctor or nurse practitioner. A lot of the care here in our riding is now virtual, and for many people who are elderly and not technologically savvy, there's a lot of hurdles for them to access that care. So they end up in our emergency departments, and our emergency departments have twice the rate of most emergency departments of people with lower acuity issues accessing it, and it's because they have nowhere else to go. So as Greens, we are going to be committed to putting the funding in to create 3,500 more positions for doctors, but we know that doctors don't work alone, so we're going to increase the funding for family health teams, especially across rural Ontario and northern Ontario, which is where the greatest need lies. And we're going to increase by 10% each year nursing positions, and we're going to work to create a better, going forward, a better service so that PSWs stop leaving the profession, so that they feel valued with equitable pay across Ontario and across different sectors, so that we can engage and keep all of our PSWs and increase them by about 6,800. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. I'd now like to invite Amanda Robertson for a 1-minute rebuttal.
Sure, thank you. So the OMA has released a lot of statistics on the state of healthcare right now. 68% of Ontarians are saying that healthcare system is worse than it was a year ago. 83% of people are saying that wait times for surgeries and specialist appointments have worsened. And 60% say that Ford has failed to fix hallway healthcare. We know that healthcare and the solutions that we need is more than just bringing in new doctors. While that is a part of it, we do need to include our other healthcare professionals, but we also need to address the system itself so that we're not losing doctors faster than we can graduate them. We know that the OMA and other healthcare organizations have been very clear with what they need to make sure that they are being supported in their roles. So in addition to hiring 3,500 new doctors, we'll also be working to cut red tape so doctors are spending more time with patients and less time on paperwork, and also investing in primary care teams. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. I'd now like to invite Dave O'Neill for your 1-minute rebuttal.
Thank you. Patients can't take another 4 years of health cuts, closures, shortages, and privatization. Ontario is dead last in per capita healthcare funding. Our party plans to create 2 new medical schools and expand existing medical schools, doubling the number of medical spots. We also plan to deliver team-based care with evening and weekend support, add at least 1,200 qualified and experienced international trained doctors over 4 years, to eliminate the paperwork. We want to eliminate fax machines and help the doctors with their paperwork, and also incentivize family doctors to serve in rural and northern communities.
Thank you, Dave. Tyler, also, I'd like to invite you for your 1-minute rebuttal.
Thank you, Chris. Well, so we know exactly how important it is to make sure that everyone in Ontario has access to primary care, because you want that constant health advocate that's there for you between visits, that knows you, that knows your family and your conditions. And that's why we put forward a $1.8 billion plan to make sure that everyone in Ontario has access to primary care over the next 4 years. We've also already started building 2 new medical schools, one at Metropolitan University in Toronto, the other one at York University. We've increased the number of residency seats by 700, and we've earmarked 60% of those for family doctors. We're also prioritizing Ontario students for all of those spots to make sure that the people that are graduating as doctors through those programs are more likely to stay in Ontario and work in the communities where they're desperately needed. We've also increased funding for the Learn to Stay grant so that doctors who are trained and are willing to work in underserved communities will be reimbursed for some of the costs of their schooling so that they're able to go to areas where we know that doctors are needed. You know, I was walking around Frankfurt the other day, and they used to have 3 doctors, and now, unfortunately, they don't have any. We're going to make sure everyone has a family doctor.
Thank you very much. Lori, I'd like to invite you for the final say on this round. You have 1 minute.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I do want to say 2 things. One, I appreciate that everyone here is going to be investing in our healthcare system, but it is an urgent need. And I also want to point out that $1.8 billion for our current Ford government is not very much when they put 2.2 into creating the area for the Therme Spa, which, so we want more, we want better. I do have a healthcare petition out in the hall there if you would like to sign. I'm sure that will help all of us advocate going forward for better healthcare for our area. And that as Greens, we know that it's an emergency, so we want to create increased funding for 24/7 non-urgent clinics like community health centers across this province to deal with the unattached patients and bring family doctors who have mostly retired to come and work for a few hours.
Thank you, candidates. We'll move to the second round of this portion. Amanda, the first question will be for you. You will have 2 minutes on the initial question and 1 minute at the end to respond. Each other candidate will also have 1 minute rebuttal, just like the previous round. Amanda, housing affordability is a complex issue that tends to overlook rental units. What opportunity does the province have to support infrastructure development, intensification, increased rental supply, or other incentive to increase inventory? You have 2 minutes.
Thank you for that question. So the Ontario NDP has an ambitious housing plan called Homes Ontario, where we're looking to build 1.5 million homes by 2034, 300 of them being deeply and permanently affordable housing units, and 60,000 of those being fully supportive units. We'll do this by partnering with co-op and non-for-profit housing providers, but providing grants, low-cost financing, and public land. We know that we have a lot of really creative solutions for affordable housing here in our community. Lori and I toured the Pinecrest Housing Project just last week, and they have a really unique concept where they have small homes, a medical center, a gym, community kitchen, and making sure that we're not losing the community piece when we're building affordable homes. We want to take the burden of building non-for-profit or affordable housing off of our for-profit builders because we know the real return on investment comes to the province with respect to savings that we experience in our healthcare system, in our social services system. We'd also be pairing our housing plan with a new deal for municipalities where we re-upload the cost of supportive housing, major infrastructure projects, healthcare like doctor recruitment back up to the province so that we can take some of that tax burden off of our municipalities. We know that while provincial taxes haven't went up under Doug Ford, municipal taxes sure have, and there has been a lot downloaded to our municipalities. So hopefully with the new deal for municipalities, what that would reflect is less of a tax burden for our municipal ratepayers and a less reliance on development charges, which will further bring the cost of housing down for folks. But really, we know we need to build homes where people want to live, so densifying within our urban boundaries, legalizing fourplexes as of right, and just building homes where people want and need to live. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Now I'd like to invite Dave O'Neill. You have 1 minute for rebuttal.
Thank you. Taxes on new housing like development charges now account for almost 36% of the price of a new home. I'm worried my children will not be able to afford a home in their lifetime. One thing we did in Quinte West, we developed a bylaw for secondary units where people can put a secondary unit in their house which can help them pay their mortgage, and it can also increase renting supply for youth or other people. Our party plans to eliminate the provincial land transfer tax for first-time home buyers and nonprofit home builders, saving families and seniors $13,500 on average. Scrap development charges for new middle-class housing, making more affordable by making renting more affordable by introducing phased-in rent control.
Thank you. Tyler, I now invite you for your 1-minute rebuttal.
Thank you. And as the question related to rental housing, I'll talk a little bit about that tonight. So this province led the charge on removing the HST on purpose-built rentals. That facilitated the largest increase in the amount of rental units built in Ontario in over 30 years. We've also made sure that we changed the provincial policy statement to allow for more modular homes, more tiny homes, and more homes to be built around transit stations as well, so that we can be building those houses and those rental units where people actually want to live. On the municipal side, we know that delays cause a lot of cost increases for developers. So we want to make sure that we're cutting down those delays as much as possible, even using technology like advanced AI software to go through planning policy applications quicker, because we know that these shouldn't be taking 6 weeks or even into months. This is something that can be done in a matter of minutes with modern technology. We use it in advanced manufacturing. We use it in aerospace engineering. There's no reason we can't use it for planning as well. And so we'll move forward on that and help reduce the cost of new housing.
Thank you, Tyler. Lori, I'd like to invite you for your 1-minute rebuttal.
Thank you. Well, we know that we're currently, under our current Ontario government, Ontario housing starts are stalled. And if you look around our communities, I think we've all seen a lot of really large luxury type homes being built on farmland and natural areas. And as Greens, we believe in building missing middle housing. We're not going to be tall, and we're not going to sprawl into our farmland that sustains us. We want to build fourplexes as of right. And we want to have 4 stories allowed, again, as of right. And we want to set uniform provincial standards around urban design so that we can remove onerous red tape, and there are plans that are ready to go in the ground. And we're going to increase financial and legal supports for small-scale builders of the missing middle and mid-rise infill homes. So we have a plan to build the housing you need in the place you love and want to live.
Thank you, Lori. Amanda, you will have the final word in this round. You have 1 minute.
Sure. So the NDP would be bringing in real rent control, vacancy control on all units. Doug Ford removed rent control after promising not to do so in 2018, and since then rents have skyrocketed. We have a lot of bad actor corporate landlords who are taking advantage of a backlogged landlord-tenant board. So we would be looking to invest there to make sure that we can work out some of the buildup and the backup there. But we know we have a government who has not been getting it done on housing. We have lots of recent housing accelerator funding announcements, but it's really just fractions of what we need. So NDP is looking to get back into the business of building homes. We are the only province across Canada who has stopped building social housing and community housing. And we're the only ones that are not seeming to be able to figure out how to build houses these days. So while housing starts were up 14,000 on average across the country, we were down 13,000 on average starts. So while interest rates and inflations are affecting across the province, other provinces seem to have been able to figure it out. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, candidates. The third question will be assigned to Dave O'Neill. Community safety is top of mind for everyone, but the burden is placed on first responders, healthcare, and the municipality where provincial funding has failed to support multiple systems. Where does the solution begin? Dave, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Right now, I feel no one feels safe with carjackings, drug violence, youth violence, and it's not just a provincial issue, it's a worldwide issue. I'm a member of the OPP Detachment Board, and we need to support our police and our first responders for those.
Thank you, Dave. Tyler, I'd invite you for a 1 minute rebuttal.
Well, thank you very much. And as the former chair of the Belleville Police Services Board, this is something that's very near and dear to my heart, and something that I spent a lot of time working on, because we know that community safety is paramount, And it's something that we even see in the downtown core just outside of these doors, where when people don't feel safe, it affects economic activity, it affects people's willingness to buy and live in certain areas. And so we have to make sure that we keep our streets safe. And we've been doing that by investing more in our police services. We just got a new deal with the OPP. We've been investing more money in terms of preventing auto theft. Recently, $134 million investment to purchase helicopters so that we have an air response team that's catching these criminals and making sure that they go to jail. We've also been working very hard with the federal government pushing for more bail reform, because one of the things that I talked about all the time with officers is how frustrating it was for them to be constantly going to the same places, arresting the same people, and those people being back out on the streets later that day, committing the same types of crimes. We need to continue to lobby the federal government to change the bail reform and make sure that people who are committing crimes stay in jail.
Thank you, Tyler. Lori, now I'd like to invite you for your 1-minute rebuttal.
Thank you. Well, there's two ways to address people feeling unsafe in their communities. And as Greens, we believe in a green and caring Ontario. And we think that with caring and making sure that nobody's slipping through the cracks, that is the answer to people feeling insecure. Like, we need to build tight-knit communities that hold each other up. So as Greens, we're going to invest in mental health and addictions care. We're not going to police our way out of this crisis. We're going to care our way out of this crisis. We're going to create mental health hubs. We're going to make sure there's safe supply for people. We're going to house people, and then everyone is going to feel safer.
Thank you, Lori. Amanda, I'd like to invite you for your 1-minute rebuttal.
Yeah, so we know that one of the number one causes of crime and criminality is poverty. And we have so many people in our community who are living in poverty, at or below, sometimes legislated. We know ODSP, OW is not enough for people to live on. We have people struggling. ONDP would be looking to double the rates of ODSP and OW immediately. We'd also be looking to clear the backlog in our courts. So while we have governments that are quick to jail, not bail, we are not offering people the supports and the type of environment that is conducive to them having a productive life in our community. We know that we do not spend enough on mental health services. The ONDP would be looking to increase funding to our mental health service providers and allow them to practice in all models of care that are needed for addictions and mental health. So not limiting harm reduction type models. We would be increasing the number of OHIP-funded patient addiction inpatient.
Thank you, Amanda. Dave, you have the final say in this round. You have 1 minute for rebuttal.
Thank you. I applaud the OPP investments this current government has made. On bail reform, you've been in power 7 years. How much longer do you think before you can get it done? We need more judges to clear the backlogs of the courts. And thank you.
Thank you, Dave. The fourth question of this round will be assigned to Tyler Alsop. Rural colleges like Loyalist College play a crucial role in workforce development, providing diverse programs that support local industries and economic growth. Without strong rural colleges, it becomes increasingly difficult to create a skilled workforce, attract new businesses, and retain young talent in our communities. Where do you see investment in education being most crucial?
Well, thank you very much for the question, Chris. And we know that colleges like Loyalist College, I see Mark Kirkpatrick there a couple rows back, are absolutely critical to our economy. And the whole idea of community colleges was for people to be able to get educated in the areas that they live. Because we know that when people have to travel to go to school, it significantly increases the cost because they have to pay rent, they have a lot of overhead expenses. We need to make sure that our community colleges are strong. And this is something that unfortunately has come out of the federal government, Mark Miller, the immigration minister, who has been running down Ontario colleges and not clearly defining the difference between public community colleges and career colleges who have operated under a very different rule set. Now, a lot of high-quality public colleges that we have across Ontario have been doing things the right way, have been making sure that they haven't been bringing in too many international students for the housing market and for the labor market, and Loyalist College certainly falls in that position. So the challenge isn't necessarily the cap that's been introduced, it's more so the fact that because of those comments, a lot of international students no longer want to come to Canada to study, and that really affects a lot of the small northern and rural colleges. So we are absolutely going to need to step in, take a look at what the funding need is for them, make sure that they're properly supported, because we know it's a huge economic driver for the region. The graduates from Loyalist College are out in the community working for us, and we're also going to continue to invest in the Skills Development Fund. We put forward $1.5 billion to educate up to 600,000 more workers, and we know that that program, and we run a program through Loyalist College called Elevate Plus, really helps people upgrade their skills, get back on their feet. A lot of them have had issues with mental health, addictions, contact with the justice system. We get those people retrained, working in our great manufacturing sector, and you can really see how much it means to them and their families to be bringing home bigger paychecks and to be contributing more in the community. So we'll make sure that we step in and do what needs to be done to support our colleges.
Thank you, Tyler. Lori, I would like to invite you for a 1-minute rebuttal.
Thank you. Well, we know that our Ontario colleges and universities are funded at about 60% in Ontario compared to the rest of Canada. So although apparently there's investments in our colleges, we can see it's not enough. The first thing we would do is reverse the Ford government's cuts to OSAP, convert the loans to grants for low and middle income students, and eliminate interest charges on student debt. We would increase immediately the funding to our colleges to 20% and change the way that they can bill the government to a pay-per-student funding model. It is unfair that we have been expecting international students to fund our college and university programs in Ontario. Greens fight for fairness, and we will fund them appropriately so they're there for all of our youth.
Thank you, Lori. I'd like to invite Amanda to respond.
So we know that this government is underfunding our post-secondary education institutions by $1.4 billion. We also know that they've been warned in various reports that they've commissioned themselves that the reliance on international student tuition was a real vulnerability. And it's something that they did not address. It's something that Loyalist is experiencing the outcome of the underfunding in real time right now. We have a leaders debate last night where we have Doug Ford saying that, oh, well, post-secondary education institutions, they're just cutting their basket weaving courses and programs. And we know that here at Loyalist, it's not basket weaving, it's our culinary arts, it's some of our carpentry programs. These are programs that we are relying on, and we need to make sure that we have strong representation, because if Doug Ford is thinking that it's just basket weaving that we're losing in the province of Ontario, then either he is very out of touch, or we don't have a representative who has been letting him know that these are real cuts we're facing in real time.
Thank you, Amanda. Dave, I would like to ask you for your 1-minute rebuttal.
Thank you. We know Loyalist is underfunded. The Ford government cut 10% in tuition. They froze tuition and didn't replace any of those numbers. They also, the base funding per capita is the lowest in all the provinces. Our plan would be to eliminate interest on OSAP loans. Debt repayment on OSAP loans wouldn't begin until you made under $50,000 a year, and also lower the middle income class income rate by 22% to help people starting out.
Thank you, Dave. Tyler, you get to finish this round. You have 1 minute.
Well, thank you, Chris. And certainly there's no lack of appreciation for how important our community colleges is. And I've been advocating for this for a long time, and certainly will continue to do so, because we know the great work that our college does, the economic driver that it is for the region. And I've had those conversations with management. I know what they need now. I know what they need on an ongoing basis. And I am more than happy to go back to Queen's Park and advocate for all of those issues and make sure that they are made whole and that they're able to provide that high quality of education that we know that our young people need in order to be able to secure the jobs that we need going forward in the future, including in skilled trades, in culinary, and so many of the great programs that they offer at Loyalist. I look forward to getting back there and doing that work with Caucus and with Premier Ford as well.
Thank you, Tyler. That concludes our first round. We'll be moving to our second round of the independent question period. Oh, that's exactly what I was looking for. There'll be 8 more questions during this period. The order has been selected at random. Each candidate will have an opportunity to answer each question. Just go through that again. Please note, wording again of these questions may be altered, but the themes of that will be captured. I will call on each candidate for their response in a set random order. So we will go question 1. I will draw, and then I will prompt each of you to answer. The first question, our first responder will be Tyler. What do you see as the best way to encourage migration and immigration to the Quinte region?
Well, thank you very much, Chris. And this is something that I've been doing when I was MPP at Queen's Park. Using my time in my member statements, I did the most of any MPP in that fall session to tell everybody about the great things that we have going on in the Quinte region, the burgeoning businesses, the great locations that we have, and the really great quality of life that we enjoy here. And also the substantial need that we have for immigration in order to fill a lot of the jobs that we have in our community, particularly in the manufacturing sector. So I would continue to go out, tell that story about why Bay of Quinte is such a great place to live, all the opportunities and the jobs that we have in this community for immigrants. And we really want to make sure that they also feel welcomed in our community. And I know that some of the comments that have been made at the federal level have impacted that, but we really need immigration. We need people to be coming to our community, starting families, buying homes, and working in our workplaces. So certainly I would continue to do that and encourage everyone to come to the Bay of Quinte for the incredible quality of life that we have here.
Thank you. Lori, I asked you the same question. Would you like it read again?
No, I think I took a few notes. Well, first of all, I want to say that we need to be a welcoming community, but we need to plan how to support the people that are coming to this riding. We are seeing incredible riding growth. Just have to look around the outskirts of Belleville, look at what they're planning in Picton and Wellington. How are we going to support the people with the infrastructure they need? We need family doctors. We don't have enough family doctors. Let's plan appropriately. We don't even have enough roads. We're suffering with gridlock right in Belleville right now. So I am not against growing a community, but let's grow it right. Let's plan and make sure that people can still have the quality of life that they expect to have right here in this beautiful region. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Amanda, I'd like to invite you to answer the same question. You have 1 minute.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm a Belleville new plant. So we moved here just not even 10 years ago. But it is a fabulous community, and it does have a lot of natural draw. We know we have a lot of resources, a lot of industry. We have a lot of wonderful places in the county and in Quinte West where I think our region speaks for itself when it comes to why people might want to live here. But we have work to do with respect to our housing, with respect to healthcare. The ONDP is proposing a new deal for municipalities, and I think a big key to having our communities be able to draw people in is allowing our municipalities to plan and to develop in ways that are new and innovative. So if we're taking some of that burden of housing, of healthcare off our municipalities, it's going to free up our human resources to plan for waterfront development, to plan for all sorts of awesome, diverse community living that really brings people to the region and wants them to stay.
Thank you, Amanda. Dave, you have 1 minute for the same question.
Thank you. To attract people here, we need to attract manufacturing jobs here so they have somewhere to work and make a good living. I'm a member of the Bay of Quinte Economic Development Commission, and this is what we are doing exactly right now. The other thing we've got with Loyalist College here, they can do training for the industries, they do training for the nurses. So if we support Loyalist College, we also support people coming to the area, because if they go to the school, a lot of times people will stay here after they're done. And the other is we need to have access to more affordable housing. And like I said, in Quinte West, which I'm a member, we worked for second unit housing. And we also doing sorry.
Thank you, Dave. We'll now move on to the next question. The first responder for this question will be Dave. Smaller municipalities are struggling to provide adequate servicing infrastructure. How would cutting development charges for developers help these communities fund necessary infrastructure without raising local taxes?
Thank you.
1 minute.
Development, as I mentioned before, almost 36% of the new price of a new home in Ontario is related to taxes. In Quinte West, we raised our development charges from $15,000 to $37,000, which really is not acceptable for affordable housing. Our Liberal plan is to provide real reform to scrap the development charges on homes less than 3,000 square feet and establish a fund that provides municipalities for lost revenue, ensuring the municipalities aren't stuck holding the bag for those one-time costs of developments. We also plan to eliminate the provincial land transfer tax for first-time home buyers, seniors, downsizing, and nonprofit home builders.
Thank you, Dave. Amanda, I'd like to invite you for a 1 minute rebuttal.
Yeah, so really, we see this pathway as our new deal for municipalities. The reality is development charges do pass along extra costs for builders and for home buyers, but it's more than that. We have created a system where our municipalities are so reliant on development charges because we've underfunded them and downloaded so much responsibility. So the key to this really is re-uploading some of those major infrastructure projects like County Road 49. So while this government has committed to $19 million, that project is closer to $30 million. So NDP has committed to re-uploading that highway or that road back up to the province and repairing it in full and taking on some of these bigger infrastructure projects so that municipalities aren't having to raise our property taxes. They're not having to rely on development charges because they're not having to scramble to try to figure out how they're going to magically pull millions and millions of dollars out of the ratepayers that exist in our communities.
Thank you, Amanda. Lori, I'd like to invite you for a 1 minute rebuttal.
Okay, thank you so much. So as Greens, again, it's all about fairness. Our municipalities have some very limited ways in which they can raise taxes, and they're not allowed to use debt as a vehicle for programs. So they're very much trapped in they want to meet the needs of the constituents, but they're not funded for that. So as Greens, like the NDP, we want to take the load off of our municipalities by back uploading housing, shelters, and transit funding, and as well create an affordable communities fund to make the communities whole for loss of development charges that we have planned for homes under 2,000 square feet. And we also will have a climate adaptation fund of $2 billion to assist with infrastructure projects that municipalities are facing.
Thank you, Lori. Tyler, you have 1 minute for your rebuttal.
Thank you, Chris. And our government has transferred more money to municipalities than any previous government, whether it's through the Building Faster Fund, the Housing Enabling Water Fund, the Housing Enabling Core Services Fund, our Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund. There are a number of different ways that we support municipalities, and this is why we've been endorsed by a large number of mayors across Ontario, because they know that the PC government has been a good partner to municipalities, including in this area as well. You know, we talk about that $19.93 million for County Road 49. You take a look at that $11 million largest infrastructure investment ever received in Quinte West in order to facilitate more housing and improve safety along 2nd Doug Hill Road and Highway 2. Even things like, we provided $1.2 million to the city of Belleville for hitting their housing targets which they use to build a new pumping station, which will fuel development in the Loyalist Secondary Plan area, which is just to the west of town. So there's a number of ways where we've been supporting municipalities in terms of making sure they have the infrastructure in the ground to continue to grow and also replace their crumbling infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler. We'll move on to question 3. Amanda, you will be the first to respond on this question. We asked in 2022 to support labor mobility, which would allow certified professionals, skilled trades to transfer credentials from province to province. But interprovincial trade barriers at all levels need to be addressed. How is your party prioritizing national solidarity in the face of tariffs from the U.S.?
Yeah, so thank you for that question. So obviously the tariff threat is major, and it's something that has been a big wake-up call for communities and provinces right across the country. We do have interprovincial trade barriers that has been a factor in some of our challenges that we're experiencing, and I think that most leadership within the provinces are recognizing that this is something that we need to be addressing. Our leader, Marit Stiles, has committed to working with the premiers across the province and with our municipal leaders and counterparts to ensure that we can have free flow of goods and people and services, and that credentialing is valid whether you're in Alberta or Ontario. But the reality is, like, there is work to do, but it is going to take united, concerted effort, and the NDP is committed to working with our counterparts to ensure that we're removing those barriers.
Thank you, Amanda. I'll now ask Lori to respond with 1-minute rebuttal.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that. Well, we all know that Canada is now facing a very unstable partner in the U.S., and so we have to do everything we can to fight back against this issue. So we're going to create, as Greens, a tariff task force, and because we're collaborative, our task force will be collaborative. It will have members of all the parties, members from all of the different sectors, and it's going to work to find the best solutions for the tariffs as they come up, to make sure that we can hit them back where it hurts so that maybe they take it easier on us. We're going to create an investment tax credit so that people will be able to invest in Ontario businesses. We're going to create a Buy Ontario fund, and so that we can really highlight how important it is right now to buy Ontario, buy Canada. It's never been more important. And of course, we're going to work with our provincial counterparts.
Thank you, Lori. I'd like to invite Tyler for a 1-minute rebuttal.
Well, thank you. And we certainly appreciate the amount of threat that's coming out of the United States as it relates to the tariffs. You know, they could affect 450,000 jobs in Ontario with that sweeping 25% tariff that's been proposed. And just the tariffs that came in the other day on steel and aluminum affect about 35,000 jobs across Quebec and Ontario. We're very committed to breaking down those trade barriers between province, and it only makes sense that we would be able to sell our goods without fees and taxes to other provinces. One of the challenges that's always been in place, because this has been widely supported for quite a long time, is that there's about 235 individual pieces of legislation that bar interprovincial trade, including about 35 of them in the province of Quebec that are largely related to language laws. And so that's always been a stumbling block where no premier of Quebec wants to be the one who gets rid of some language laws in order to facilitate that free interprovincial trade. But we're absolutely committed to it, and we're going to make sure that we protect Ontario from these tariffs by delivering $10 billion in cash flow support to businesses, $3 billion in offsetting provincial taxes, $1.5 billion to educate 600,000 new workers. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler. Dave, you'll have the final say in this round. You have 1 minute.
Thank you. This is not an election about a strong mandate for tariffs, as Ford alludes to. Where is he? Right now, he's on an election campaign instead of looking after the people of Ontario as he needs them. The Trump tariffs are beyond our control. If you don't stand up to a bully, it will only get worse. Our party plans to establish a Fight Tariffs Fund, which will provide businesses with access to cheaper interest rates for operational costs or capital investments to help them keep workers or hire new ones. We also plan to cut the small business tax rate by half, increase the small business threshold, saving as much as $18,000 a year for $275,000 of of the 450 small businesses.
Thank you, Dave. Question 4, we'll begin with Lori. Multiple sectors are suffering from decades of chronic underfunding. Which sector do you see as a priority for the province? And does this support the economic and social development needs in a rural riding like ours? You have 1 minute.
I think I need more than 1 minute. We have seen that our Ontario health system is underfunded by the most of any province's health system across Canada. We have the least beds per capita, and this is a huge issue, especially in our community. We have a lot of seniors, and as one of them, we need health care. So that is huge. But you can see the other issues when you're not funding education systems. We have students in overcrowded classrooms because our government is funding our schools at the lowest level, again, across Canada. I could go on for that for every sector. As Greens, we will fight for fairness and we'll put the money where it's needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Amanda, you have 1 minute for your response.
Yeah, so I already touched on healthcare. We obviously know that that is a huge challenge in our community. But I do also want to touch on education because, like Lori alluded to, we have cut $1,500 per student from our schools. We've lost 5,000 educators since 2018. We have hungry kids coming to school every day. Food bank usage is up. We had federal government who had come to the table with a school nutrition plan, and this government really dragged its feet on following through on that. So we know our schools are the backstop for all the other crises that are burning in our community right now. And if we're not setting our students up for success, then we are shooting ourselves in the foot when we get 10, 15 years down the road and we have kids that can't thrive in our communities. So we're committed to fixing our funding in schools, fixing transportation funding so that kids can get to school, and adjusting our special education funding so that we are making sure that students are supported to the best of our abilities in the classrooms.
Thank you, Amanda. I'd like to invite Dave for your response. You have 1 minute.
Thank you. The three sectors that I'm concerned about are healthcare, housing, and education. We've talked about healthcare and housing. Under education, my daughter McKenna is a teacher, and my wife Teresa also works in the education system, helping me have a background knowledge of the chronic underfunding and numerous problems in the system. Under Ford, class sizes have grown and learning gaps have widened. Students, teachers, support staff, and families need support. It's time to improve both working and learning conditions in our school. Voting is the best way to improve your working conditions. And also on then, for the notwithstanding clause, we plan to honor the workers and we will not invoke a notwithstanding clause.
Thank you, Dave. How do you have the final say in this round? You have 1 minute.
Well, thank you, Chris. And I think the way you set up the question is perfect, that the chronic underfunding has existed for decades. And when we came in 2018, we came into a nearly bankrupt province that had twice had its credit downgraded. Our credit has been upgraded twice since we've been in office. And one of the major focuses for us has been on healthcare. So we've increased the funding for healthcare by 50% since 2018, from $57 billion to $85 billion. We put forward $50 billion to renovate and build new hospitals across the province. And the previous Liberal government was going to close both Trenton Memorial Hospital and Prince Edward County Memorial Hospital. We provided the stable funding to keep both of those hospitals open because we know how important it is to deliver high-quality care close to home. We're building a brand new Prince Edward County Memorial Hospital for $200 million, and we put $8.9 million into renovating a new ER for Trenton Memorial Hospital as well. So healthcare has been one of our main focuses, but if you look at every single sector, we've increased funding and we've addressed infrastructure gaps everywhere.
I would just like to remind everyone that while the candidates are speaking, to please refrain from noises in the audience and give them the respect they deserve. Thank you. Move on to the next question. Dave, you will be the first one to respond. What can the government do to counter inflation and the dramatic increase in the cost of living in this riding? You have 1 minute.
Thank you. We need to support farming. Strong community needs to feed itself. We must work together on issues and not make the political issue to stop or criticize another party's initiative. All parties lose. Production is geared to market, resulting in each link of the chain getting a fair return on investment. We need to create new markets for Ontario and Canadian agriculture. We need to support small business, and we've done that by cutting the tax rate by 22%, increasing the threshold for the small business deduction, and lowering the personal income tax rate for personal.
Thank you, Dave. I'd like to invite Amanda for your 1 minute response.
Yeah, so cost of living has gotten a little bit out of control over the last several years, and life has become really unaffordable for people. The Ontario NDP would be introducing a monthly grocery rebate that's indexed to inflation and based on the number of people in your household for food basics. We'd also be pairing that with price gouging legislation so that we have grocers who have to post publicly when they're increasing the cost of staples more than 2% in any given week, so that we're not handing people money to then put into Galen Weston's pocket. We'd be introducing a monthly caregiver benefit for those caring for loved ones at home, because we know that comes with great personal and financial cost, and delivering on $10 a day daycare, so that and creating 53,000 new public and non-for-profit childcare spaces, so that we can have people who are able to work and who are able to afford to have childcare provided. We'd be introducing rent control on all units, and really and a universal school food program. A big one that is near and dear to my heart, eliminating parking fees at hospitals for all staff, patients, and visitors as well.
Thank you, Amanda. Lori, I'd like to invite you for a 1 minute response.
I love the parking fees one. I never paid for parking at the hospital. I walked every day to work, every day. So as Greens, we want to make Ontario affordable. We believe it can be a fair economy, including everyone. So in order to help, we're going to cut taxes for low and middle income earners under $65,000 and households making under $100,000, freeing up approximately $1,700 per year. We are also planning to introduce some strict anti-gouging and collusion laws to help make the price of groceries more affordable. And we're going to stop giving rebate checks for hydro to the wealthiest Ontarians and direct that money to help low and middle income Canadians. We also want to increase the minimum wage to $20 an hour and index that to inflation. Implement some paid 6 days so you're not running into trouble because you got sick. Oops, sorry.
Thank you, Lori. Tyler, I'd like to invite you for your 1 minute response.
Well, thank you very much. And affordability is something that this government has been laser focused on, as we've seen affordability issues skyrocket across the entire country. That's why we cut taxes for 1.1 million low-wage earners. We also increased the ODSP. It's gone up 16.7% since 2022. And we've tied it to inflation, which is something no other previous government has done. And that's the largest increase in ODSP's history. We've also made sure that we cut the gas tax by 10.7 cents a liter and continue to extend that cut, saving the average family about $380 a year. We cut sticker fees, we cut license renewal fees, and we continue to cut red tape, which saves about $8 billion a year on the cost of doing business. We understand that affordability is a priority. It affects families all over Ontario, and that's something that we've absolutely delivered on and will continue to do more for Ontarians because we understand how hard it is to make ends meet.
Thank you. Moving on to question 6. Amanda, you'll be the first to respond for this question. If you as a candidate are successful in securing the Bay of Quinte riding, but your party does not form government, how will you work across party lines for the residents of this riding?
Thank you for that question. I think it's important that regardless of whether our party forms government or not, we're working across the aisle and collaboratively with everybody that is at Queen's Park. I think for too long we've had this team-based mentality where people aren't willing to budge on their perspectives. As your MPP, if I were part of an opposition government, I would still be fighting hard to hold account some of the decision-making that's happening and really making sure that I keep your voices as the focus of all the advocacy I do. I know that you guys don't have the same life as me or the same experiences, so it would be up to me to ensure that I come to you to understand your challenges and your solutions and bring them to Queen's Park. And I think regardless of where you're sitting in the Queen's Park legislature, you have a role to be responsible for the people you represent and to ensure that their experiences and their solutions are heard and represented within the decision-making there.
Thank you, Amanda. Lori, I'd like to invite you for a 1-minute response.
This is my favorite question because as Greens, we have led the way in working collaboratively. We're always small, but we know the power of collaboration, and nobody's shown that better than our leader, Mike Schreiner. He has passed more bills in opposition than any other party has through Doug Ford by working across party lines with people like Tyler, people like Dave, people like Amanda. He finds consensus, and Greens can build consensus in every room and collaboration because we don't just put party over politics. We're there to work for the best solutions of Ontarians across the board, and I would commit to that, and I know that everybody here will, I hope.
Thank you, Lori. Tyler, I'd like to invite you for a 1-minute response.
Thank you very much. And I think that sometimes the tone of our politics does come across as a little bit too coarse. And I'm very grateful that that hasn't been the case up here on the stage tonight. We've all gotten along very well together. And as I mentioned in my opening statement, I've had about 300 different stakeholder and constituency meetings since taking office. And I'm absolutely willing to work with everyone of any political stripe. And Lori mentioned Mike Schreiner, and he's one of my favorite people to talk to. I go over and chat with him all the time. I was actually in Guelph recently opening up some new beds at a long-term care home there. Mike was, of course, in attendance as he's the MPP for that riding. And we went around and toured the home together and chatted. I know that Mike has the largest green tie collection in the entire province. And I've also made friends with a lot of members of the Liberal Party, particularly John Fraser. So I have no challenge working across party lines. I'm not a terribly partisan person. And I'm happy to work with anybody and everybody to advance the needs of the Bay of Quinte. And that really is the role of an MPP, regardless of whether you're sitting in government or not, because I can tell you from having sat in that legislature, there is not a bad seat in that house.
Thank you, Tyler. Dave, you have the final say in this round. You have 1 minute for your response.
Thank you. As a Quinte West councillor, I have proven I'm able to work collaboratively with everyone. My primary focus will be looking after our Bay of Quinte area concerns. We need to work together on issues, as when they are used as political issue to stop or criticize another party's initiative, everyone loses.
Thank you, Dave. We'll move on to question 7. Lori, I'll call on you to answer first this time. Supply Ontario manages public buying policy and sticks to a lowest bid process, and Parks Canada recently told their employees to go through Amazon. How do you support buying local?
Oh, well, I would never ask people to go through Amazon. I think that's a terrible, I know they have an Amazon warehouse here. I do understand that. But they don't pay their workers very well. They don't pay a lot of taxes into the municipalities that they reside in, and they have literally taken over so many things, and then they send rockets into near space for a vanity project. Very frustrating. So we need to be looking at local and small suppliers. During the pandemic, we didn't have enough hand sanitizer, and there were companies across the county that started making hand sanitizer for us. And then when the time came to buy hand sanitizer for the hospitals, these small companies that stepped up were left behind, and they went with big multinational corporations again. And I think that that's wrong. We need to build community in Ontario, and the way to do it is by supporting our local manufacturers and suppliers.
Thank you, Lori. Amanda, I invite you for a 1-minute response.
Yeah, so as Lori alluded to, a lot of our small businesses has been hurt under the Ford government. During COVID, they were ignored and unsupported and often left out in favor of big box stores and companies such as Amazon. So an Ontario NDP government would be launching a Buy and Build Ontario plan with specific focus on our medium and small businesses to ensure that they have an ability to bid on government contracts and have just as much opportunity to fill some of these needs in our community. We would also be bringing back a staycation tax credit to encourage people to be staying and using our tourism that is local. And then again, delivering on this $10 a day daycare, I can't stress it enough that it is really hard for our small and medium-sized businesses to thrive when they don't have access to that workforce. And there's a lot of people held out of the workforce because they can't find accessible childcare that is affordable. So really, with that, also succession planning with our small businesses to allow owners to form employee ownership trusts.
Thank you, Amanda. Dave, I invite you for a 1-minute response.
Thank you. With the recent Trump tariffs causing a stir, I feel there's never been a better time to support Canadian-made products. A strong country needs to feed itself and be less dependent on other countries for food source. To this, I'd say we support for greenhouse grown fruit and vegetables, promotion of frozen fruit and vegetable for out of season, and we need support for a marketing system known as supply management. That market system is responsible for Canada being self-sufficient in dairy, chicken, and egg products. Production is geared to the market, resulting in each link of the food chain getting a fair return on their investment.
Thank you, Dave. Tyler, you have the final say in this round. You have 1 minute.
Thank you very much. And it certainly is a critically important question, given the fact that we're facing these tariffs coming out of the United States. You know, the Ontario government does about $30 billion of procurement a year, and we're focusing those procurement efforts on Ontario-based and Canadian-based businesses wherever possible. And not just through Supply Ontario, but you look at the $200 billion plan we have to build out infrastructure across the province, including road networks, transit, hospitals, long-term care homes. We're going to focus the procurement of all of those resources as well on local markets and Ontario-based companies for all the aggregates, the cement, the steel, the mass timber products that are needed to build out that infrastructure. And that will have a massive impact on the amount of money that stays in the province and also the effect on local businesses and smaller businesses. This is something actually that Chris and I have talked about as well, the importance of lowering those thresholds, making it easier for smaller businesses to bid on these projects, because often they can deliver an incredibly good price, but maybe they're not a trusted supplier yet. We need to facilitate that moving forwards.
Thank you, Tyler. We've now come to our last question of this round. Tyler, I'll ask you the first question, or the question. Energy and access to sufficient power is a looming issue, particularly in reference to its use in retaliation to tariffs from the United States. What do you see as the future for power generation and retention in Ontario?
Again, fantastic questions tonight. So we just launched the Affordable Energy Act. Our goal with this is to get affordable, reliable power, and we are technologically agnostic. So whether that be wind, solar, biomass, natural gas, and particularly nuclear. And this is something that we've announced that we're going to be expanding in Darlington. We're in talks currently with Wesleyville to expand our nuclear capacity there as well. Not only is that great for those communities because it brings good paying jobs that are stable and long-term, it also means that we are energy sufficient, that we don't need to be reliant on other countries to bring energy in, and it makes our grid even cleaner. And one of the best things that we can do for the environment is to build things in Ontario on our clean electricity grid. It's great for jobs, it's great for our energy independence, and it's great for the economy and the climate as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tyler. Lori, I'd like to invite you for your 1 minute response.
Oh, well, thank you so much. So as the Greens, you know, the first thing that we were upset about under Ford's government in 2018 was that he cut the energy efficiency programs for hydro. And that is the cheapest way to supply energy to people, is to create energy efficiency. But also, we have other ideas besides that. One is to provide free heat pumps for houses with incomes under $100,000 and zero interest loans for households over $100,000, and remove the HST on heat pumps, heat pump water heating, solar panels, EV chargers, and energy retrofits. And we also have a plan to end taxpayer subsidies for fossil fuel companies and reverse Ford government subsidy for Enbridge's gas hookups, because we can't afford to stay on fossil fuels anymore. We need to move to a cleaner standard, and renewable, affordable energy is ready.
Thank you, Lori. Amanda, I'd like to invite you for a 1-minute response.
Yeah, so we know that in Ontario we have access to a lot of clean energy. We're lucky enough to have hydro and nuclear, but where we really are struggling is with people being able to upgrade their own personal systems. So we would also be offering free or discounted electric heat pumps, offering rebates up to $19,500 depending on income, plus an additional $5,000 for those who are currently heating with oil, propane, and coal. We'd be enhancing Ontario's Save on Energy affordability program so that it can also include people who are retrofits for people who are renting and low income, because right now it is very hard if you are renting or low income to access that program. So we would be looking to ensure that everybody has access to clean energy and an affordable clean energy. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Dave, I'll now ask you to close this round out. You have 1 minute.
Thank you. We need to reduce our dependence on fossil fuels by promoting wind, solar, and nuclear. I noticed the solar project in the county that was canceled and all the windmills were taken down. I don't know how you can do that and say you're promoting. Energy efficiency programs need to be promoted again, and we plan to remove the HST from hydro and home heating. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. And thank you to all of you. This closes this portion of our agenda. I want to thank you all for participating in the question portion of our debate. You have had equal time to present your party's position on a wide variety of topics and hopefully also confirm the issues that the Bay of Quinte riding residents are concerned about. The Chamber relies on its membership and our connection to the community to inform us of the challenges they face. We are a nonpartisan advocacy group and look forward to working with the successful candidate following the election. I will now invite the candidates to make their closing statements. You will each have 2 minutes. And this time, we will reverse the order from our opening statements. Therefore, I will begin by asking Tyler for your closing statement. You have 2 minutes.
Great. Well, thank you, Chris, and thank you to the Belleville Chamber of Commerce and all the volunteers that helped to put on this event, and most importantly, all of you for coming out tonight. It's so important that we have conversations like this to hear the ideas, to see the candidates, to see their preparedness, and to form our own opinions about who would be best to represent this area moving forward. You know, we're going through unprecedented times right now with the threats from the United States. We know that those tariffs, when they come through, could impact up to 450,000 jobs, which is a massive blow to our economy. And that economy is what funds everything else we do, from healthcare to transit, transportation, education. It is so important that we get it right. And so right now, we need an experienced leader with a skilled team and a local member that will not stop fighting for you. And if that sounds like that's what you want, on February 27th, please vote to re-elect me, Tyler Alsop, as your MPP. Send me back to Queen's Park to be your strong voice to protect Ontario and to keep getting it done right here in the Bay of Quinte. Thank you very much. I hope you all have a great night.
Thank you, Tyler. Dave, I'd like to invite you for your closing statement.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here tonight. Your time and engagement are truly appreciated as we come together to discuss the future of our region and province. As your Liberal provincial representative, I will work hard and in collaboration with all levels of government. We will reset Queen's Park's relationships with rural Ontario by ensuring reliable funding and collaborative, respectful relationships with municipalities. Doug Ford has shown a clear inability to effectively manage our taxpayer dollars. Our community deserves much better. He and his Conservative colleagues are not serving the people of Ontario, they are serving their own interests. Ford has 16 months left in his mandate. He should be focusing on critical issues like fighting the Trump terrorists, not abandoning the people of Ontario when they need a leader the most. We need to work together on issues as when they are used as political issue to stop or criticize another party's initiative, everyone loses. Our party plans to establish a fight terrorist funds which will provide businesses with access to cheaper interest rates for operational costs or capital investments to help them keep workers or hire new ones as they grow. An Ontario government will provide real long-term financial relief for the people of Ontario. We have a plan to cut your taxes, lower the cost of housing, eliminate HST on hydro heating, make education more affordable, and ensure everyone in Ontario has a family doctor. I care about our community, and I know the policies of this Liberal government will make a difference. I respectfully ask for your support in this election. On February 27th, you have a choice. 4 more years of Doug Ford's backward priorities or a real leadership that puts you first. Vote David O'Neill.
Thank you, David. Amanda, I'd like to call on you for your closing statement.
Thank you. Well, life has become really hard here in the Bay of Quinte. Better is possible. This costly winter election has given us an opportunity to have better and to have better sooner, and to elect a leader and a rep that are truly on your side. I want to work hard to understand the voices here in Bay of Quinte and bring not just our challenges, but our brilliant homegrown solutions to Queen's Park. We are living in unprecedented and unpredictable times, and right now it's tariffs, but tomorrow it could be a climate disaster, it could be another pandemic. There's all sorts of things that could happen that we need to make sure that we have a strong community for our economy to thrive in. We need housing, we need healthcare, we need help with the cost of living, we need schools that are going to set our kids up for success. We need a government that will be a responsible steward of our tax dollars, one that makes smart investments in us, the everyday people that are living here and working in Ontario. We need a rep that will make sure that the Bay of Quinte doesn't get lost in the shuffle or forgotten about in between elections. While Doug Ford fights for Ontario, I want you to be thinking about, as you go to the poll, who is fighting for you? Who is showing up for you? So when we're talking about cuts at Loyalist and we're talking about the major economic impact that that has on our community, who is sounding the alarm? Whose leader has shown up and spoken directly to those concerned individuals? This election, we have the opportunity to make a different choice, one that brings fresh leadership and a new vision for Ontario where we can afford somewhere to live, access to health care, we can have help with the cost of living. We can elect a leader in Marit Stiles who we can trust to be collaborative and forward-looking as we work through some of these very pressing and major issues. I'm excited about the prospect of joining a team who truly cares about each and every one of us and who will fight to restore the promise of a good life for people here in the Bay of Quinte. So Bay of Quinte better begins on February 27th with a vote for me and Amanda Robinson. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Lori, I'd like to invite you for your closing statement.
Thank you. Well, the question tonight, why vote Green? I can tell you why I'm here representing the Ontario Greens. It's because as Greens, we do politics differently. We're not consumed with winning at all costs, but we are looking forward to bring great ideas to help Ontarians navigate the difficult times ahead. We're not focused on 4-year election cycles. We look at through the lens of sustainability, not just for 4 years, but for the next 7 generations. We do not represent wealthy insiders. We represent everyday people in our riding, especially those most vulnerable. We are the voice for the voiceless, the trees, wetlands, the native species that create the web of life that we all rely on. As we slip past the 1.5-degree climate target, Greens are planning, beginning with a $2 billion a year climate adaptation fund to help us build more resilient infrastructure in the face of increasing climate chaos. It has never been more important to vote. Democracy is fragile. Our elections are being won and lost through apathy. The winner in the last election, the by-election, did not vote, not Tyler Alsop. This election, I would like everyone here to commit to get out to vote. Offer your friends and neighbors rides to the polls. Host a voting party and a potluck. It's time to build community. It's this community that will help us withstand the shocks of this changing world. This election, it's time to vote for someone who's served this community for over 30 years. Vote green. Vote for me, Lori Borthwick. It's time.
Thank you, Lori. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of the candidates for your time and dedication for being here tonight for this debate. I trust you have found it an opportunity to share your party's platform and how it relates to the Bay of Quinte riding's concerns. I'd now like to re-invite Lisa Comerford from the Central Lakes Association of Realtors to offer a few words. Thank you, everyone.
To the candidates here with us tonight, thank you so much for your passion and dedication. It takes an incredible amount of courage to step forward and put your name on a ballot, especially in today's polarizing political world. We recognize and appreciate the sacrifices made by you and your families during this campaign. To the audience, thank you for educating yourselves on the party platforms, the candidates, and the issues. You understand that voting matters. Thank you for your support and coming out tonight.
And look at that. We're done early. You guys sped through your answers. That was wonderful. It was amazing to hear the clapping in the audience, the little red sign that says you guys are done. It's a great way to get you feeling good about yourselves because all of you did a great job answering the questions. I just want to thank our supporters tonight, definitely Lisa Comerford with the Central Lakes Association of Realtors for supporting this event, the Quinte West and Prince Edward County Chambers for promoting this event because they know that it matters, and the Empire Theater and their tech crew and all the work that they've done for us this evening. Lisa Grills down here in the front for her timing. It's hard to imagine how hard it is to watch your clock and make sure that you don't forget to set the timer, but she does a great job. I want to thank Chris Auger for moderating tonight's event, and I want to thank our Government Affairs Committee for reviewing all the questions and ensuring that the themes and issues were covered. So again, even though you may not have heard the question the way you worded it, hopefully the candidates were able to answer those concerns you had or presented. Finally, I hope you feel better informed and have found tonight's event helpful. It's our pleasure from the Belleville Chamber of Commerce to make this available to you. And to the candidates, all the best. I know it's a tough job. It's been cold, it's been snowy, and it's a valiant effort on all of your behalf. Thank you. And thank you all.